for everything that you do for us. Thank you for your love and kindness to us all the time. Thank you that you are a good Father that we can talk to and go to all the time. Please, God, give us a word today to live by, and give us that this word would make us closer to you through the intercessions of Saint Mary, Archangel Michael, and all the saints. Yes, and pray thankfully, our Father who art in heaven.
Hallowed be thy name.
In the name of the Father, and Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you, Abuna. I'm gonna share my screen. And I started recording. Can everybody see it?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So today I've put a picture to make it a little bit more appealing. So our reflection today, or contemplation, is actually about a very famous parable that Christ has given. And actually, of course, we don't want to talk about the entire parable. I just want to take a couple of points that we can contemplate about today in our quiet time. So just to remind you, this parable is the parable of the vine dressers, which is actually mentioned in three Gospels. You find it in Luke, in Mark, and Matthew, of course, with varying levels of detail, but it's pretty much the same. And you all know it. It's talking about a man who owned a vineyard, and that man leased that vineyard. He leased it to vine dressers. And then he went to a far country, but he went for a long time. And then during that time, he started sending servants one after the other, seeking to get some of the fruit from that vineyard. But those vine dressers were not treating the messengers, those messengers well. They were beating them, sending them empty-handed, like you see in the verse. And then at the end, he decided to send them their son. I'm just reminding you of the parable. And when he sent his son, they said, "Oh, this is the heir. So now we can, if we kill him, if we get rid of him, then we can have the inheritance. So that inheritance is going to be ours." So of course, the direct meaning, everybody understands the direct meaning of this, and that's very relevant, of course, to the Holy Week, in that it's revealing the heart of the nation of Israel. They were the people who were given the law, the promises. These are the vine dressers, but then they rejected all the messengers of God, the prophets. And at the end, they ended up even crucifying the Son, Christ. And the vineyard now went to the Gentiles, who are us, and Christ is, of course, glorified in his church. And there is plenty of meanings, of course, for that parable about God seeking fruit in our lives and entrusting us with this life. And then he's looking for fruit in us. But what I want to do today, again, because this is a contemplation, not a talk, I just want to talk about what happened. I just want to extrapolate a little bit the thought process of these vine dressers, so that we can take a point of reflection in our quiet time based on a mistake that maybe they have done and how this relates to us, of course, for our spiritual benefit. So there are two things, essentially two messages that I want to talk about. The first thing is that those guys, by staying, the owner of the vineyard, he went away for a long time. So at the beginning, maybe they were thinking that he's around, maybe he's going to come back. But then after some point, they started feeling that the owner is absent. So what happened is that they lost their connection to the owner. That was the big problem. They lost the connection to the owner. They were not talking to him. They were not trying to tell him, okay, this is what's happening in the vine. This is what we're doing. And after that, after they started feeling that he's absent, they didn't want really to acknowledge the owner and that everything is actually his, everything belongs to him. And in fact, they started considering that this vineyard is theirs. Everything is theirs. So that's the first point. The second point is, if you also extrapolate their thought process, maybe they were not being interested in working anymore in the vineyard. All they wanted from that vineyard, and that's why they want the vineyard in the first place, is that they want the fruit. They want the fruit of that vineyard. They don't want to work. They don't want to spend effort into that vineyard. They just want the fruit. So on our level, and those are the 2 points that I want to mention, the feeling of the owner being absent, that could be similar to us sometimes losing our connection with God and considering that everything I have is mine, meaning my success, my happiness, my life, my way, my things. These are my stuff. I feel that these are my stuff. And actually that relates quite well. Now I'm thinking to something that we were mentioning a few days ago in the Arabic Bible study about in Hosea, about Gomer thinking that everything is hers, everything belongs to her. When in reality, everything in fact belongs to God. Our life, our happiness, our success, everything belongs to God. So the first one is this loss of connection with God. The second one, those vine dressers not wanting to work, but just wanting the fruit, could be related to us. I don't want to work. I don't want to struggle. I just want to be happy. So I'm essentially all I want, just make me happy. And the spirit of our culture sometimes pushes us to do that, is that all we want is the fruit. But then the message, again, the message of contemplation today is to be able to enjoy the fruit of the vineyard, of this beautiful vineyard, which is that God has planted, which is essentially our lives. There are two things that we have to be attentive to. The first one is that we should not lose our connection to the Creator. And the ways by which we can lose connection to the Creator is, for example, by being busy or by being not interested. And that actually relates to a contemplation that Abuna mentioned yesterday about look to me. When Abuna was saying in Isaiah, God is telling us, look to me. And he said that what it takes is that we need to be interested. We need to give him time. So when we are busy or when we are not interested, what's going to happen is that we may end up losing our connection to God in that sense. The other point is we should not forget, to be able to enjoy again the fruit of the vineyard, we should not forget the work it entails. And what I mean by work is that we need to invest in the vineyard. Invest in our lives, whether this is related to our spiritual growth or our even professional growth, our marriage, our relationships to our kids. Just to give some examples, let's look at our spiritual life. The connection to God, of course, which is the first point, has to be there. But in terms of the work in the vineyard, the question is whether I am trying through prayer to reach a higher level of spiritual maturity, or do I simply just try to take the fruit of that? For example, coming up to take the Eucharist. So the spiritual life requires investment. It requires the connection with God as well as the investment. Suppose that we're talking about seeking fulfillment, for example. So am I trying to be fulfilled by climbing the mountain and doing the things that I need to do? Or am I turning to things that are temporary, giving me temporary type of fulfillment? Also, this is also a point that Abuna was mentioning, is that sometimes we turn to other things to get our joy. This could be shopping, it could be temporary happiness, it could be a sin, it could be anything in which I'm trying to seek fulfillment. The same applies to marriage. For example, am I trying to nurture that relationship? That's what I mean by investing in that vineyard. Or am I just seeking the fruit of that marriage when I'm not doing the investment in it? The kids, we were talking in the parents' meetings, for example, about investing in our kids. If I want my kids to end up being kids that are related to God and raised for the kingdom, am I investing in them, or am I just ignoring them, giving them a phone to play and so on? So again, I think this is a favorable time, given that many of us now are spending more time at home. One question we can ask ourselves at the time of contemplation is, have I lost my connection to God? And if I've lost it, then I need to look to God, like Abuna was saying. And the other one is, have I become more interested in the fruit than the process of growing and uniting with God and investing in that vineyard? And that vineyard, like we said, could be our spiritual growth, our professional growth, our marriage, relationships with kids. It could be many, many things. So that's the point of contemplation for us today. Again, enjoying the fruit requires these two aspects: the connection, not losing the connection, and not forgetting that I shouldn't be focused only on wanting the fruit, but investing in the vineyard itself. هحاول نفس التأمل يعني بالعربي. التأمل بتاعنا النهاردة من المثل بتاع الكرامين. المثل ده احنا كلنا عارفينه عن واحد صاحب كرم، يعني he's the owner of the vineyard، صاحب الكرم ده، واداه لناس كرامين سافر مدة طويلة، وبعد كده طبعا ابتدى يبعت رسل علشان ياخد من الثمار بتاعة الكرم ده منهم، لكن كانوا بيضربوهم وكانوا يعني بيرجعوهم فارغين. فقرر ان هو يبعت ابنه اللي هو الوارث، فهم قالوا احنا لو قتلناه ده الوارث فاحنا هناخد الكرم. فيعني طبعا المعنى الواضح قوي او المعنى الدايركت للمثل ده ان ربنا كان بيتكلم، يعني كان بيتكلم عن الامه اليهوديه، ازاي ان هم رغم ان هم شعب ربنا وهم اللي اخذوا المواعيد والانبياء، لكن في الاخر هم رفضوا الانبياء ورفضوا المسيح في الاخر نفسه، والكرم في الاخر راح يعني الكنيسه، بقت الكنيسه بقى هو ده شعب ربنا دلوقتي. لكن الحاجه اللي احنا عايزين ناخدها النهارده، عايزين نفكر يعني هو المثل ده بينطبق برضو علينا في حاجات كتير، وفي حاجات كتير ممكن نتكلم فيها، بس انا عايز اخد نقطه واحده، والنقطه دي هي ايه اللي كان يعني في دماغ، ايه اللي ممكن يكون في دماغ الكرامين دول، كانوا بيفكروا في ايه اللي في فكرهم، وايه الغلط اللي هم عملوه اللي ادى للمشكله دي. فاول مشكله ان هم ممكن يكونوا حسوا مع مرور الوقت ان صاحب الكرم مش موجود، ان هم حسوا ان هو يعني غايب، فابتدوا يفقدوا العلاقه ما بينهم وما بين صاحب الكرم ده، ما بيتكلموش معاه. فابتدوا يحسوا ان يعني كل حاجه في الكرم دي بتاعتهم. الحاجه الثانيه ان هم يمكن ما بقوش حتى يعني مهتمين بالكرم نفسه، هم كل اللي عايزينه من الكرم عايزين الثمر. انا كل اللي انا عايزه يكون الثمر بس، مش مهتم قوي ان انا اشتغل في الكرم واتعب في الكرم. فعلى مستوانا ده ممكن يكون، وده يعني بينطبق عليا ويعني بينطبق علينا كلنا، ان احنا ساعات بنفقد الكونكشن لربنا. وممكن يعني ابتدي افتكر ان الحاجات اللي انا عندي، سواء كانت سعاده او نجاح او حياه او whatever، عيلتي حتى، اي حاجه بفتكر ان هي بتاعتي، لان انا فقدت الكونكشن لربنا. الحاجه الثانيه ان انا ممكن اكون مش عايز اتعب، يعني مش عايز احط اي مجهود، انا بس عايز اكون فرحان ومبسوط. وده حاجه بتشجع عليها يعني الثقافه اللي احنا عايشينها، ان احنا دايما عايزين الحاجه السريعه. وحتى نشوف ولادنا كده كتير، يعني هم مش عايزين يتعبوا، هم بس عايزين حتى مثلا ممكن يجوا مدارس الاحد يقولوا ان مدارس الاحد ممله، انا بس عايز حاجه تسليني، انا عايز ابقى متسلي، عايز ابقى مبسوط. ف فالنقطه اللي عايزين نتامل فيها النهارده، ان انا عشان افرح بالثمر بتاع الكرم اللي هي الحياه بتاعتنا اللي اداها لنا ربنا، في حاجتين احنا محتاجينهم. الحاجه الاولانيه ان انا محتاج ان انا ما افقدش العلاقه ما بيني وبين ربنا، لازم اكون متوصل بيه. والطريقه الوحيده ان انا اكون متوصل بيه ان انا ما اكونش مشغول عنه، او ما اكونش مش مهتم بيه. زي ما ابونا كان بيقول امبارح، يعني كان بيقول انظروا الي، او يعني look to me. لو انا مشغول ايقاع الحياه سريع قوي، ممكن ابقى مشغول عن ربنا، او لو انا مش انترستد برضه ابقى مشغول عن ربنا، وساعتها بيحصل موضوع ان انا الكونكشن دي بتتقطع، او الكونكشن دي بتبقاش موجوده او مش قويه. الحاجه الثانيه ان انا ممكن انسى ان انا يعني محتاج استثمر في الكرم ده، والكرم ده اللي هو يخص حياتي الروحيه او حياتي العمليه، او علاقتنا في الاسره، او علاقتي بالولاد. كل الحاجات دي محتاجه انفستمنت. كل انفستمنت الواحد بيعمله في سواء في حياته الروحيه او في اي حاجه من الحاجات اللي احنا وي منشند، يعني كل ده هو ده اللي بيؤدي ان الواحد في الاخر يبقى فيه ثمر. بالاضافه طبعا يعني ممكن نفكر في الموضوع ده ان هو موضوع الجهاد والنعمه. النعمه وجهاد الانسان الاثنين لازم يشتغلوا مع بعض. فيعني مثلا لو بصينا على حياتنا الروحيه، انا ممكن اكون يعني عايز الثمر بتاع الحياه الروحيه، ان انا مثلا ابقى فرحان وانا واقف بصلي، بس انا مش بحاول ان انا اوصل لمستوى يعني نضج روحي بان انا اقرب من ربنا، وان انا اسبند تايم معاه، وان انا اقعد معاه واستراجل يعني شويه ثرو البراير على الاقل في الاول. حته ان انا عايز اكون متسلي او مبسوط او حاسس ان انا يعني فولفيلد يعني ايه يا ابونا بالعربي؟ يعني
شبعان يعني.
شبعان، يعني بالظبط اكون شبعان. هل انا يعني بانفست بستثمر في حياتي عشان اكون شبعان، ولا انا بحاول ادور على حاجات تانية في حاجه طبعا ليها القيمه، ولا بحاول ادور على حاجات تانية، حاجات يعني زمنيه temporary، زي مثلا شوبينج، او ان انا يعني حتى خطيه معينه ممكن بدور فيها على fulfillment او شبع، وطبعا مش هلاقي في الاخر. نفس الحكايه في علاقتنا في البيت، نفس الحكايه في علاقتنا بالولاد. فمتهيألي الوقت ده وقت كويس ان احنا جيفن ان احنا قاعدين اكتر في البيت، يعني ممكن في وقت التامل نفكر في النقطتين دول. هل انا ممكن ساعات اكون يعني ابتديت افقد العلاقه ما بيني وبين ربنا شويه، نتيجه ان انا مشغول عنه او مش متوصل بيه؟ والحاجه الثانيه، هل انا بقيت مهتم اكتر بالثمر عن ان انا اكون مهتم يعني بعمليه ان الثمر ده ينمو عن طريق التحادي بربنا، وعن طريق النمو بتاعي والانفستمنت اللي انا بحطه في اي حاجه انا بعملها، سواء حاجه روحيه او حاجه تخص البيت بتاعي او الاسره بتاعتي وهكذا. ابونا قدسك تصلي لنا ولا؟
Yeah, sure. Thank you, George, so much. We will pray يعني، وبعد كده نحاول ناخد quiet time، وبعدين عندنا تسبيحة الساعة 8. أنا آسف النهاردة نسيت أبعت اللينكس، بس يعني إحنا عارفين اللينكس، فكويس إن أنتوا دخلتوا يعني. نقول أبانا الذي ونبتدي quiet time بتاعنا. اللهم اجعلنا مستحقين نقول بشكر يا أبانا الذي في السماوات.